So a lot has happened since the last time I recorded a Vanishing Point. There were rumors about a Batman Beyond movie being in production with Warner Brothers Animation, and then those rumors got debunked. But the only thing I really have to say about the situation is a couple years ago there were rumors about a Batman Ninja Turtles movie, and then those rumors got debunked, and now that movie's confirmed. So maybe take both the rumors and the debunking with a grain of salt. I don't know. Intro music.
Because it's Thursday.
Hello, Internet, and welcome back to the Vanishing Point. So, between all of the Batman Beyond movie rumors and the fact that this year is the 20th anniversary of the show's debut, on top of me recently having been on the Batman Beyond podcast, Above and Batman Beyond, I felt like now was the best time to revisit something I said in the past. It's been almost a year since our Batman Beyond timeline video came out, and I really wanted to touch on some stuff with Terry's age that I'm surprised none of you have called me out on yet. If you weren't a subscriber at the time or just somehow missed the video altogether, you can click the card up here to check it out. James animated me as Mr. Freeze's head, so that was kind of cool. I would suggest checking it out on that alone. However, if you don't have the time to watch two videos today, I'll kind of sum it up here. Based on in-universe dates and passing of time, we came to the conclusion that Terry became Batman around fall of 2039, and the show ran to at least summer of 2042, where Return of the Joker happened, and possibly a little bit further past that. Before really getting into the meat of it all, I just want to point out that there's different ways of approaching the DCAU timeline, and while we here at Watchtower Database focus heavily in on-screen evidence and then use tie-in material to help fill the gaps, Bruce Timm himself has actually stated that Batman Beyond is always a floating 50 years in the future from whatever the most recent point of the DCAU present is. Past our analysis and what Bruce Timm says though, there are other sources such as DC Universe App's Encyclopedia that weirdly states that Terry's career as Batman starts in 2029, or the official Batman Beyond animated series guidebook, which states he started his career in 2038. And then there's this promotional giveaway version of the Batman Beyond comic that combines the first two issues of that run and adds extra panels specifically stating that Terry's tenure as Batman started June 21st, 2039. At the end of the day, the DCAU is a piece, or realistically multiple pieces of art, so it's kind of open to interpretation. So if you don't 100% agree with our take on things, that's a-okay. If you're interested in our parameters that we've set to go over all of the evidence for this timelining stuff, we did make a set of rules before ever touching this topic at all on the channel, and I'll get James to link to those in the description box below. Now that the housekeeping is all out of the way, I'm sure you guys are wondering what it is you should have called me out on about a year ago. Well, I'm sorry to have left you guys hanging, but do you remember when I said this?
As well as some confusion around Terry's age that we'll get to at another time.
Well, now is that time.
It's time? It's time? Did he just say it's time?
We didn't have a lot of fun in the desert. I'm getting off of the topic at hand. Sorry. You just can't not sing along with VeggieTales. Anyway, back to Terry's age. We're actually given a lot of info about the subject between both Batman Beyond and Justice League Unlimited. Hashtag keep epilogue a secret. Hashtag I'm looking at you, Nerdist. The earliest evidence comes from the episode Earth Mover, when Bruce and Terry are talking about Bill Wallace being accused of dumping toxic chemicals.
Don't you read the news? It was only 10 years ago.
I was 7.
Oh, well.
This age was actually repeated a few more times in his bio for Kids WB, as well as in 2000's Batman Beyond files, which both suggest that he was 17 at the time of the events of Rebirth. It also came back up in his bio for the Return of the Joker, suggesting that he was 17 years old during the events of that movie, and one more time on screen during the events of Big Time.
Charlie was 18 and I was 14. He was in prison for 3 years.
And this is where the issue with his age really begins. Just to recap, by our math, Rebirth starts in fall 2039. Then, moving to Earth Mover, it's 2040, most likely during the fall due to it being soccer season.
Today it was on the soccer field.
And then Big Time is after spring break of 2042. You know, because of all of the Zeta Project stuff that kind of happened back to back.
Unit Zeta went renegade August 5th, 2041. 6 days ago, it went renegade.
And then Return of the Joker is in summer of the same year. So, do you see what my dilemma is? Right off the top of things, we have both on-screen evidence and other official sources telling us that Terry was 17 for about 2.5 years. The easiest answer for explaining this all would just be to ball up my notes, throw them in the trash, and remind myself that it's all cartoons and it doesn't really matter. After all, there are plenty of cartoons that never seem to age, and we've actually seen instances of this before in the DCAU. In fact, we've actually brought up a couple of those examples in an early Vanishing point about how the timeline's a little weird. So sure, that may be the easy route, but when have you ever known me to take the easy route when overanalyzing cartoon characters? I mean, you're watching a guy who spent an entire weekend watching every single press junket for Batman and Harley Quinn that I could find on YouTube just in order to make a point. So while Terry seemingly didn't age for a while, this all changed when we got to his true finale in Justice League Unlimited's epilogue. Set 15 years after Terry's debut as Batman, we see him as an adult in his 30s.
Sure. Why else keep dating for 15 years?
An infant, a young child, and here's the kicker.
I was 16 years old when you started training me, Bruce.
While we've previously discussed the retcons in Epilogue kind of making the timeline loopy in both our Batman Beyond timeline video and the video that I've done on Amanda Waller's age, this one doesn't contradict anything that we've seen on screen, so it seems much more official than the 17 years old that I've mentioned in other bios that were off screen. It also works out perfectly since, as I stated earlier, Rebirth occurs in fall 2039, Earth Mover is in fall 2040, a year later. But this still doesn't solve all the issues. As I've already stated, Big Time seems pretty clear that Terry is still 17, and that's about 1.5 years later. Well, maybe I missed something. Let's play the clip again.
Charlie was 18 and I was 14. He was in prison for 3 years.
Sure, if you add 3 years to 14, you get 17, but it's never explicitly stated that Charlie's sentence began while Terry was 14, only that the crime that they committed happened when Terry was 14. You see, while the Sixth Amendment specifically states, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, the parameters of speedy weren't specifically defined until 1974, when Congress passed the Speedy Trial Act. This act stated that the trial must commence within 70 days of when the indictment was first filed, and in 1979, it was amended to state at least 30 days must be given so that the defendant can build their case. So while Terry may have been 14 whenever he and Charlie were initially arrested, he could have easily turned 15 in the month to 2.5 months that it would have taken between then and Charlie actually being convicted, making Terry now 18 back in the future day of 2042. However, this still doesn't solve everything. I'm sure you're probably thinking to yourself by now, how many problems can this guy create? Well, if you ask my girlfriend, the answer is a lot. While it is normal for graduating high school seniors to be 18 years old in the American education system, this show still goes on for another 14 episodes and a movie after this point. And as we've pointed out previously, Return of the Joker seems to be set in summer of 2042, which is before Wayne has regained the control of his company, as we see in the episode Out of the Past. In that same episode, we also see Terry's back in Hamilton Hill High School, seemingly having started another year of school that he shouldn't be in. So what's the deal? Why is Terry going to graduate at 19 instead of 17 or 18 like most normal Americans? Well, there could be a couple of different explanations. Going back to the dates established by the Zeta Project,
Unit Zeta went renegade August 5th, 2041.
6 days ago, it went renegade.
we see that Terry is in school on August 11th, 2041. Looking at a future calendar, August 11th, 2041 is a Sunday. So we can assume that perhaps in the future of the DCAU, the school system is set up a bit differently than it is in current time. But on the other hand, it's also just very possible that the DCAU calendar doesn't match a real world calendar. So this isn't very conclusive. The other option hinges on Terry's time in juvie. We know that he was there for 3 months, and while juvenile court schools do exist to offer a public education to incarcerated kids, they don't typically meet the same standards as regular public schooling. And according to this article that was published in The Atlantic in 2017, if you were to be held in solitary confinement for some reason, you could be going a while without any instructive education at all, which, if were the case for Terry, could mean that he ended up being held back a year as a result of his incarceration. So now that all this information is laid out for you, with Terry becoming Batman at the age of 16, 17 by the time of Earthmover, 18 by the time of Big Time, and 19 by the end of the show, which explanation makes more sense to you? Do you think maybe Terry got held back a year due to his time in juvie? Or maybe the school system just works differently? Or am I just going absolutely crazy over analyzing cartoons? I'd love to hear what you've got to say, so as always, leave your comments down under in the Australia box. Of course, before I go, I want to thank all these lovely people for supporting us on Patreon this month. If you want to see your name on the list by the next Vanishing Point episode, you can go over there and we'll get you on for a pledge as low as $1. While you're over there, you can check out other perks that we've got available. Voting for polls for upcoming episodes, live stream hangouts, custom artwork, merch, and more. Honestly, you don't even have to go over there for the merch. If you're interested in that, there's a link down there somewhere. Just look for it, it'll be there. By the way, if you're interested in Hangouts but don't have the money for Patreon, we actually started a Discord server recently. You've probably heard me mention it a few times, but it's been a lot of fun to talk to the people in the community about just geeky stuff or art you're making or, you know, anything at all. If you're interested in that, we'll leave a link in the description box below. As always, I've been Mattie Washburn, this has been The Vanishing Point, and we'll continue to stay those things so long as you continue to stay you. Love you guys, I'll see you in 2 weeks.